I have also had A-class tenants and in A++ locations go completely sideways on me. So you're getting an N4. I don't give a who you are. If you can't walk into Best Buy and grab a TV off the shelf and just walk the out and be like, oh, I'm going to pay in 5 days without them doing their due diligence on you. Yeah. If you're into real estate to make money and you don't have it properly managed, you won't make money. Okay, so on today's podcast, we are going to be discussing property management. So now the last step was you ended up negotiating the deal, you got the deal locked up, and you're going to close on the deal. Yeah. So
ton of people forget about this, right? When I have investors talk to me, it's always about like, how do I get a deal? How do I buy the property and all that stuff? But nobody talks about managing it. Yeah. And I think managing the property is where you're going to get a significant portion of your returns is proper management.
For sure. There is literally value add strategies solely based off of acquiring property based off poor management.
100%.
So
100%.
A lot of people, you are right. Yeah. I feel like people significantly discount proper management.
Well-managed properties, whether it's let's say a duplex, triplex, or bigger, the bigger you get, the more opportunity you have. But well-managed properties sell for a significant premium relative to mismanaged ones.
And why? Because the NOI is higher.
The NOI is higher. People walk into these places. Like if I'm a buyer buying a multifamily property, if I'm inheriting tenants and those tenants look like they're going to give me a hard time, I'm going to significantly discount what I'm willing to pay for that. Sure. So, and when we talk about management, like a big part of that is selecting proper tenants. And here's one thing I think too. Managing the property starts with the purchase. Like it starts with the location. If you are going to try to attract good people, you need a good property and you need a good location. Like, could it be any simpler, right? No. Like one of the things that we kind of joke about is like, you don't build a Starbucks in the ghetto. You don't build a Starbucks in these locations that good people aren't in or higher income people aren't. So you should be able to judge the quality of a neighborhood by its surroundings and just some general knowledge and experience and also what businesses are around there and whatnot. But it really, management does start with the purchase.
It really, like, to go back to that about selecting your location and selecting your, whatever, or underwriting the deal. I would also focus a little bit more on almost like, I want to say a little bit more on service rather than product. Like I understand how like a Starbucks is like more of like, you buy coffee there. They also offer, it's like I feel like it's a little bit more in-person client base, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
relative to Tim Hortons or something.
Not even that. I mean, like, is there a Best Buy down the street? You know what I'm saying? Because you're actually the type of person walking into, say, a Starbucks or any kind of service. When you have people actively using certain services in an area, I feel the type of service will tell you a little bit more about the area versus the kind of products. Because a lot of people, there's a very broad use of certain products, okay? You don't have to have a lot of money if you really just want a fucking Starbucks. Like, you don't have to. But it's the type of clientele that those people want, that style of service. So like, what style of services are in the area? Anyways, that was a little thing I feel like,
and when you think a little bit deeper, like I love the saying, you follow the money. Yeah. Because those big money businesses, they do their research. And a high-end chain that's a little bit more premium, like a Starbucks or whatever else, they will target those higher end neighborhoods. And like, it's not to say that you can only buy in high-end neighborhoods. You can be a millionaire slumlord. Like I know people personally that only buy the C and D properties and they're millionaires. You can do it. My point here is just understand what you're buying. Like if you're somebody like myself that wants more passive income, like I don't want to deal with these headaches. I want to self-manage good properties and good tenants. I need to understand what I'm buying and why. And I need to understand that if I'm going to go into those C and D locations or the student rental areas or, the Droulards of our city in particular, that I'm going to have to up my management game and my efforts on that front. So understand what you're getting is definitely a big part of it as well. Yeah. Now let's talk about one of the questions I always get, and I'm sure you've heard it plenty of times too, but like, should I manage the property myself? Like, should I immediately hire a property manager? I know you have some strong feelings about this. How would you answer that, especially to a beginner starting out?
Yeah. To a beginner, I would definitely advise managing the property yourself, but I also would advise connecting with someone that could help you. So, because there's going to be a lot of things that come up that you're not going to understand how to navigate, right? So if you're a newbie, you also better figure out how to gain some knowledge, okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should connect with a property manager. Or if you do connect with a property manager, I'm not saying that in the beginning it's not the right answer. I do think that it has its merits, especially if you are looking to scale, if you're looking to, if you have enough money. You know, I managed my own property until I got 20 deep because I didn't have enough money to, I wasn't able to peel off enough money.
Yeah, property management will take 7 to 10% of your gross income every month. Like it's a big chunk,
especially in smaller portfolios. Yeah,
it's a big chunk when you're early.
So I did it by default because I didn't have the money to do it any other way.
But most beginners don't.
Yeah, but I learned a lot. I learned how long it takes to change a toilet. I learned how long it takes to, do simple things.
How about selecting a tenant? How about dealing with people?
Yeah,
like that's the biggest one for me.
Figuring out, who and what is coming to the table to rent. What I like and what I don't like about when I see someone roll up to a property and they want to rent my property. Maybe
we can dive a little bit deeper into that. Like I've noticed, and this is just like anything else. You're not going to really understand how to choose tenants until you get a little bit of experience. You can't read a book about it.
Yeah.
And for me, like I started to see patterns very early on. I almost got manipulated a couple of times when my first rental property, because I don't know if you've experienced this yourself, but people come in with a sob story, for instance, right? Like, oh, my mom just died. I'm in a really hard place. And I used to kind of get sucked into that. Like, oh, like she seems like a really nice person, or this person, like she's just a hard time. And it arouses this want to help, right? Yeah. It's a natural thing. I think you mentioned it in one of our previous podcasts. And I found myself getting sucked in. And now I've learned that's a huge red flag. When somebody leads with manipulation, emotional manipulation, it's now become one of my big red flags. So that's something that, like, I don't know if you can teach that. You have to go.
People also lie.
Experience. Oh, big time.
Like, fuck. Like that woman may not have happened. Like
she may have learned how to. I've had people lie.
Like people lie all the time.
Yeah.
Like people lie all the time. Mm-hmm. Like I've heard every fucking story in the book. Like every fucking story in the book. And these type of people, they'll just lie.
Yeah, well, this happened or that happened. Or I'm just
everybody lies. Not just tenant. No, not even tenants. But like a lot of times when you have some, like what I mean is like these people that come to you and with this story first off, coming right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that type of person. That's what I'm talking
100%.
They lie.
They could have learned how to emotionally manipulate people and just straight up lie about a situation. They know how to trigger you.
Yeah.
And so. But you're not going to know that like until you start experiencing it.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest parts of being a good manager is dealing with people.
100%.
And I think one of the biggest parts of being educated about your market and who tenants are is like actually interviewing potential tenants. That's what's made me like a way better landlord and investor, because I know who's coming to my table, like in different types of property. I've helped clients lease properties too. So I've had a spectrum of like good properties and not as good properties. And I see who comes to each property. And I've learned, okay, this is where I want to be, right? I want to be on this high end because different clientele come. Now, here's the thing. Even in a good property, you will get riffraff. You will get those liars. You will get those people that, they're at a $2,200 property and they have no business being there. Yeah. And they probably have no intention of paying.
Exactly.
That type of thing.
Literally was just going to say that.
And now I can spot that person from a mile away, right? So what are some other things like red flags that you maybe notice when somebody shows up to one of your properties?
What do they look like? Like,
how do you present yourself?
Like you need to be able to judge a book by its cover, and I
it's a part of the equation.
I think it's hilarious when people say like, "Hey, well, that's not you're marginalizing people or whatever." But fact of the matter is that tells you something about that person.
Yeah. If you go to an interview for a job and you dress like a slob and like you don't care, then that tells me your character, right? From a job perspective, it's the same thing with a rental property. You show up with a dish out, you don't care. that's going to tell me something. It's not the whole story, but it's a piece of it.
Yeah, if you don't even care about yourself, the way that you look, what makes me think that you're going to care about my property and the way that you're going to be taking care of my property?
Great points. Yeah, and people will show up and
if you're late, are you late?
Yeah,
that kind of shit. Do you not even show up? Can you not even fill out paperwork correctly? Yeah. Can you not even fucking read shit? Like with that kind of stuff. Like
I ask you to submit a credit check, you don't get to it for 5-6 days. Like how serious are you?
Yeah. So that tells me right there, you're not going to give a shit when the first comes, right? You can't even run a credit check.
Yeah, within a reasonable amount of time, like you said you were going to.
Yeah.
And these are a lot of...
my this happened or this happened or this happened. Yeah. Like even in general, like don't fucking come to me. Like I'm pretty busy. Don't fucking come to me and tell me, oh, you were just too busy. Don't fucking say that shit to me. Yeah. Like whenever someone says that shit to me, I couldn't get to it. I was just too busy. I don't want to deal with you anymore. Like pretty you're not the busiest person in the world, and I'm probably busier than you. So don't fucking go telling me shit like that.
Yeah.
So some of
these are all little red flags that like early on in my investing career, I ignored them or I tried to rationalize them. Oh, he was a little bit late, but he had a reason. Oh, he didn't get me that report, but let me go back to the well and try to get him to submit it. And I had a bit of like desperation because I didn't know what I had, right? I didn't think like, are there really tenants out there that want to rent? Like I had a misconception about tenants in general that there aren't really good people that are tenants. If they were good, they would just buy. A lot of misconceptions, right? About who the tenant pool is. Let's talk about that a little bit too, right? Like, man, there are tenants in all spectrums and all. Like I see people renting $4,000 a month properties for various reasons, right?
Yeah, you got scenarios where someone's getting a divorce, where it ruins their credit, or someone coming in out of town. They don't want to just jump into a property before knowing the markets here or knowing where they want to actually end up. They don't want to lock themselves down into a specific area and buckle down.
One thing I'm seeing a little bit too is old people retiring, older people selling their house, taking their cash, not buying again, and then just renting for the.
So I have actually done 2 of those. I'm pretty sure it's almost like how chip reverse mortgage. Those commercials, fucking chip reverse mortgage, or whatever. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So what I ended up doing was I got specifically. I have 2 or 3 of them like this. I don't remember exactly, but they're in kind of like more resident or more retirement style kind of areas. And the homeowner sold their house significantly undervalued. Okay. And they knew that. But what they wanted in return was, I'm going to sell you way cheaper than what you would get on the market or what I would get on the market. But I'm going to do that because I only want to and can only pay X amount in rent. And I was like, fuck it. Okay. I'm going to get $150,000 in equity right off the bat, like rate current market value, $150,000 cheaper, but you're going to be getting rent for $500 less. And I was like, okay, fuck
I never heard of that.
Yeah. I've done it like 2-3 times.
That's great. How did that come to you, or did you find it or whatever?
So the way that it happened was someone first brought the scenario up. How did it actually even happen? I think it was an agent, John, that I was working with. He had a client or he knew it was like a family friend maybe. I don't remember exactly like how it actually, this was a couple years ago, but I don't remember exactly how it came to fruition. But it was a scenario where she brought it up that she would like to do this. And then she told a couple of her friends. And then they were like, fuck it, I want to do it. Because they want to travel and they don't want to be locked down.
Got it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's a win-win kind of for everybody. Like you get the immediate $150,000. Yeah. Now it would take you a long time in cash flow to make $150,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people might say, "Oh, I'm getting less cash flow. Oh, that's stupid." No. Like that's actually really smart.
People build wealth not on cash flow.
I know people don't understand that. Like man, cash flow is key, but wealth is.
So I'll give you an example. You know Marco, my buddy, right?
Yeah.
So Marco's the guy you obviously know. Like he kind of like sold me my first real estate package or portfolio, whatever. Yeah. We became really good friends. He does not make his money. Like, so the lifestyle that he lives, right? Like he lives a pretty fucking lavish lifestyle. He does not actually live the way he lives based off the cash flow that he makes. Don't get me wrong. It's part of it, but he trades property every once in a while. He'll trade, refi, that kind of shit, pay down debt, refi it, buy new shit, sell it. Value add it, build equity, sell it, refi out. Like that's where he makes his fucking money. That's where he's pulling in millions of dollars, not from the cash flow.
Yeah, it would take decades.
Yeah.
You can't make $1 million in cash flow, probably, maybe ever. But you can in appreciation pretty quickly if you have a decent portfolio.
Like he makes a couple $100,000, maybe even $300,000-$400,000 in cash flow a year. But to live the lifestyle that he lives, that wouldn't even be able to support it.
I see.
You see what I mean? Yeah. So he makes his money trading and being very active in running his real estate business like a business and not where he's just collecting checks.
And $300,000 or $400,000, like he's more in the commercial stuff or bigger stuff, right?
Bigger stuff.
Like he's not buying single families and duplexes.
No, and at one point he had 300-400 units in the city, something like that.
To get to 100,000, 200,000, it's not.
He scaled back, and so one of the reasons why we're talking about management, I got to get him on this fucking podcast too, because my God, the stories that he has is outrageous. So I was talking to him the other day, and he started with a lot of like not, I don't want to say like slumlordish type of properties, but basically. So he was coming from the perspective of a lot of these newbie investors were coming from. I want the most amount of unit density in a property for the cheapest amount unit price that I could fucking find. And the problem that comes with that is it looks great on paper, but in reality, you're a fucking zoo operator is what he says. Okay. That's literally what he says, because they're fucking tough. They're tough tenants. And he was in areas where a lot of these people coming into our city are going into. And they are looking for these properties, and they're going to get fucking burned. So he was telling me about a story where he ended up selling a property first to this guy, and it was in Sandwich Town on Sandwich Street. Sandwich Street. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's just, and it wasn't even like as soon as you get into Sandwich Street, like where like Spicoli's was, it was like, you keep going down a little bit. That's just rough. Okay. That's a rough fucking area.
It's a little bit better now, but it's even worse back then.
And you want to talk about rough? When he did it, like literally this was probably, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, maybe probably 15 years ago, it was way rough. Okay. So he was telling me a story where he ended up selling the property to this guy. Okay. And literally they were like exchanging keys on the sidewalk and it was closing. So Marco, the type of guy he is, nice guy. He's like, listen, if you have any issues, don't hesitate to call me. I'll help you out. I know the property. I know the area, this and that. You know what the guy says to him? Don't worry. I've read a lot of books and went through a few courses.
I love this.
So as soon as Marco heard that, he said, this guy's in for a fucking world of hurt.
Big time.
2 years later, the guy ended up calling him. He's like, this is from Marco. He's like, hey, it's so-and-so again. Would you be interested in buying back the property? It's gotten away from me. So Marco ended up buying back the property and making a ton of money again from somebody that literally Marco's a good manager and he understands these tenants, and he understands when he goes into these areas what to expect. Okay. So he underwrites deals based off reality and not like pro forma and not by paper. So he fucking knows. He knows the management in these areas is going to be more like 15-20%.
And he can handle it.
He understands. Now he doesn't want to deal with it anymore, right? Like now he's like 45 or whatever. Now he doesn't want to fucking deal with it anymore. But he knows the realities of these fucking tenants and these type of properties. So he ended up, selling it, made some money because he managed it properly, put it on the market when it was like full or operating correctly, got it back as a value add because the guy fucked up and then sold it again.
Yeah, I love it. And the book knowledge does not translate into reality.
So what he told the guy is, he ended up telling the guy, I can't remember his exact words. What did he end up telling the guy? He told the guy something along the lines of like, when he said that, he said, you have no idea what you're getting into. And he said, you can't read a book for what's coming up.
Yeah.
You're not going to understand.
It's so true.
I did read one book. It was from a guy in Ohio. And the guy literally would have to go collect rent with a pit bull and a Colt 45. I'm not even joking. So he specifically got a gun license to be able to manage properties in these areas in Ohio. Yeah. Okay. And he ended up, the last time I talked to him, literally we would go on, I would love to actually contact this guy again. I still have his book. It was by far the most realistic book I have ever read. And it was like literally unknown. Because why? It doesn't sell a fucking positive narrative.
Love it.
In the book, it literally goes through, I bought a gun literally to manage these properties. I literally...
By the way, we're not recommending
No,
but
and I don't even recommend buying properties where you have to buy a gun, but he did see an opportunity in these areas where the guy was like an ex-Marine or something like that, or he was like somebody that could handle himself. And he wrote a book based off of his experiences managing properties in these areas, and it was the fucking best book I've ever read.
Yeah, realistic, right? That's the type of stuff I like. Yeah.
Exactly realistic. He didn't promise anything. It was almost like dark.
Yeah.
It was almost like the book was like almost like a little bit dark. It was almost like the same message we send on this podcast of like just fucking straight up reality.
Yeah.
You know?
Not sugar-coated.
Not sugar-coated at all. And the fucking guy was like fighting for like reviews. Yeah. I think that when he asked me to review the book, it was like he had like 2.
Yeah, probably.
And I think the other one was like his wife.
Yeah.
Like so I think books like that or people like that need more recognition and more clout because they're fucking real.
Yeah, and those books will help you, whoever's watching this, especially the beginners, more than the rosy dope.
Way more.
And this is reality. Like you can be successful being a slumlord.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
And you don't even have to be a slumlord.
Yeah,
right?
But this is what I recommend. Like as the investor, like for me, this is what I've learned, right? I heard a great story about this where it was a similar slumlord, and the guy told me basically like I speak their language. He grew up in the streets or whatever. Like he would go collect rent. This was in Quebec. He would go collect rent, and if they didn't pay him, he would threaten to kick their ass.
Yeah,
that's not me. Like, I'm a middle class dude.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. That's not my game. I don't want to. So I want to buy properties that attract my vibe, my tribe. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to have an easier time managing them.
For sure.
So I've focused on those types of properties, and I would recommend that everybody listening to this does the same thing. You have to think about your tenant
for sure
before you buy the property.
Would you hang out with this guy?
Who's your tenant going to be at this property?
Same thing. Would you live in this property, and would you hang out with that guy?
Yeah.
That's it.
And some people probably would, right? Like they speak that language of
part of what I think is and I use this a little bit loosely because I do own property I wouldn't necessarily live in, but again, I'm a little more seasoned than most people.
True.
So one of the things that I do recommend, and I know we actually debated on this, is especially for newbies. How are you going to actually manage, operate, and sell property that you yourself wouldn't even fucking live in? Like this goes like, and the reason why I feel like I am successful in real estate is because I treat my real estate like product. I didn't like to own stuff that I wouldn't actually live in, and I didn't feel comfortable even like putting a family member in or whatever. I do the same thing with all the products that I create. I don't produce product that if a family member was like, hey, Dan, should I take this or could I take this? Where I would be like, nah, I don't know. Like I sure as fuck bet you people make some products out there that people are like, I don't know if I would take that. Like 100%. McDonald's or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Hey, do you think McDonald's diet is great for me? I bet you the fucking CEO or whoever started McDonald's is going to be like, nah, I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not producing product like that. So when you consider that, why would you produce real estate that you wouldn't have a sibling or a parent or a friend or yourself go in there and rent?
And how about this? Not just produce or buy the real estate that you wouldn't live in, but how would you if you were living there, how would you like it managed?
Yeah, exactly.
If you had a problem, what would you want the landlord's response to be?
Absolutely.
If you felt a certain way, do you think you'd want an empathetic landlord that understands your problems and actually cares, right?
For sure.
Do you know how many people I know that when I talk to tenants a lot because I'm going through all these properties, whatever. And you know how many times I've heard my landlord's a piece of shit?
Yeah.
And the landlord complains about their tenants when in reality, the landlord's the problem.
Yeah.
Like they've created the problem because the tenant's telling you, even low income tenants, even low end tenants, they can be good people if you treat them with respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they tell you there's something wrong and you say, oh, I'm sorry, Susie, like let me get that fixed for you. No, they might give you some respect back,
like
right?
Dave has had an issue with his landlord. Dave, is that fixed yet?
Same kind of deal.
Fucking window. How long you been there? 6 fucking months. Dave's had a board in his window.
And the guy
what
just
the fuck is that?
Exactly.
Like seriously, what the fuck is that? I had all the windows changed in my coach house within a month. Within a month. I would do the exact same thing for a tenant. I treat the tenants with respect. As soon as they stop treating me with respect, well, then it's a different story now. Now you're not getting the same amount of respect, right? And then now we're gonna figure out how, like, you know, you just got to leave. The time's your time's up. game over, right?
Yeah.
But
it can't all be on the landlord, of course.
No,
right?
that's
you can't
bullshit.
Just turn the other cheek for a million times and then get burned.
And here's another thing too. You will develop a reputation of a landlord that can be taken advantage of. You will develop the reputation of somebody that does take care of their tenants, okay? Because word of mouth gets around, okay? And then you also will get the reputation that if you're not stern, you can be taken advantage of as well, right? So you have to be stern. That's another thing too. A lot of people don't realize that. The fucking third of the month comes around, you're getting an N4. Like, I don't give a fuck who you are. I would send an N4 to my mom. I don't care, because you know the rules. If you're not paying by then, instead of waiting and hoping for promises, okay, to come to fruition, oh, you know, I'm gonna pay you in a week. No. You're gonna get an N4. The process is gonna get started now, and then if you make good in a week, great. We cancel the N4. If you don't make good in a week,
now what if the tenant calls you and says, hey, like, sorry, Dan, I'm a couple days late here. I'll have it to you on the 5th.
You're still getting an N4.
Yeah.
I don't care, because I've been in enough scenarios where I have heard that it's the 5th. Okay, no problem. Okay, now it's the 10th.
What if it's like an A tenant and like, she's literally like a nurse and like respectable.
It doesn't matter.
50 credit score.
You're still getting a fucking N4.
Yeah.
I don't care, because I have also had A-class tenants and A++ in A++ locations go completely sideways on me. So you're getting an N4. I don't give a fuck who you are. That's it. Yeah. Because the process is getting started, and you need to know I'm serious, that if you don't pay, you have to leave. This is a business. I would never send protein to someone if they didn't pay. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck am I treating this any different? This is another thing. Treat it like a business. If you can't walk into fucking Best Buy and grab a TV off the shelf and just walk the fuck out and be like, oh, I'm going to pay in 5 days without them doing their due diligence on you.
Yeah. No,
or making sure that you can make good on that TV purchase.
I get what you're saying. 100%. There's two ways to look at it though, right? Like, this is a customer service as well.
100%.
And if you have somebody that you really like as a tenant and they come to you with some honesty, like, to me, customer service wise, is like, I'm going to provide some leeway here. And if I hit him with an N4, maybe I ruin the relationship a little bit.
Here's my perspective on that. And this is what I've done. If they're great tenants, ordinarily, they still get the N4, but they get explained. It's an automated thing. It automatically goes into, delinquency.
I like that.
And so, we know you've
not personal.
Yeah, this is not personal. Yeah. We run a business. We have to stay tight. This is our policy. Mm-hmm. And we actually tell people up front, if you are late, so the expectations are already set. If you're late on the 3rd, if you don't have the 3rd, no matter if you've paid, you're their best tenant, it doesn't matter. You get an N4 and the process starts. As soon as you pay in full, the N4 and the process goes away.
Love it.
That's it. Yeah. So we're very cordial. I don't manage my property anymore, but we're very cordial. We're very friendly. There's no confrontation. The expectations are set from the get-go. And they know right away. And as soon, because you got to understand, Scott, what happens again? Like, listen, I got bills to pay. I got bills to pay that come up on the 1st. Okay. So if they're late, now I'm late. Okay. It's not okay. So as soon as that happens, so they're late for 2 days, then what? Now, maybe next time, in 3 months from now, it's going to be maybe 5. You let them go for 2, 1 not 5. Like that term, you give someone an inch, they take a mile. It exists for a fucking reason. Whether it's bad people or good people, it doesn't fucking matter. Okay. So I recommend people to explain the expectations right off the get-go, and you get the process started as soon as someone's delinquent.
Yeah.
And you explain, hey, listen, it was explained to you. And if they want to push back a little bit, listen, this is not personal. This is our policy. This is my policy. You knew from when you signed the lease that this is going to happen. This is not, something new. Please just, as soon as you make a full payment, then this all goes away. It's not even a big deal.
Yeah.
It just gets filed.
If you deliver that well,
and that's what we do.
And Businesslike.
Yeah. I don't fucking serve them with an N4 and say, go fuck yourself. Like, that's not what I do.
It's kind of how you made it sound, but
maybe. But that's not what I do. It's very cordial. It's especially if they're respectful.
It's businesslike.
It's business. This is business.
That's the way to deliver anything.
This is business. And I would never do it any other way. in any other business. So this is what I mean. This is why when I say stop treating this shit like an investment, start treating it like a business, and you'll have a better run.
Love it. It's good advice. What other, like, I don't know, first time landlord tips would you maybe have for somebody? We talked about, like, okay, starts with the buy good properties, attract your tribe, attract people that you want to deal with. How, manage it business-like, take care of repairs when people call you. Yeah.
I would do timely repairs. You really want to take care of like leaks, stuff like that. Number one, it'll increase your, utilities depending on how bad the leak is. But sometimes leaks can get really bad. I've had leaks where they were deferred, and next thing you know, a pipe bursts or something like that. Leaks will tell you sometimes a story of what's going to come and what's going to happen. I would actually do your own snow removal and own grass cutting because it gives you an excuse to go to the property routinely.
No way in hell I'm doing that, by the way.
But I used to do that, right? And I used to do that for a reason, not because I actually liked cutting the grass and shoveling snow. It was because it gave me an excuse to keep an eye on the property and let them know I'm watching and I'm coming. And I wouldn't tell them like, hey, this is when it's going to happen. Like I would just, I would switch it up and this and that. You got to keep them guessing. I want to make sure that they know, number one, their property's being kept up, right? And number two, they can't fuck around because I'm watching. So this is important, right? Like this is kind of important. Like when nobody has accountability, shit starts to kind of slide. And I've seen it in the best tenants and the worst tenants. Doesn't matter. So another thing that I would recommend too is I usually don't like landscaping. This is kind of more like a property maintenance thing. But I usually will actually rip out landscaping, especially on the lower quality property, because that's just not getting kept up.
I like that.
Especially on. So I have gotten to the point where sometimes I will let the tenants take care of their own properties and stuff like that. They like it or they want to do stuff, but a lot of times, like the landscaping, just get it out, and I run sod right up to the fucking property.
Yeah, no, it's good.
That's something that I've done,
never heard of that.
And I like that because it just doesn't. They don't keep it up. So it's much easier, especially if I'm like renovating the house or whatever. We just rip the landscaping out, and it's usually shit anyways. I just don't replace it. It's usually the property that we go into, the landscaping is bunk right from the get-go. So we take out the landscaping, and you don't replace it, run sod.
Yeah,
and then
low maintenance.
Low maintenance, zero maintenance, or very low maintenance. And then when we do go to sell the property, then that's when I would put new landscaping in. Freshen it up and get some nice curb appeal.
I like it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what else? Like anything else you can think of here for these beginners? Again, like this is going to be experience, right? Yeah. You got to do this.
So I'll give you an example real quick, okay? So I had this is a perfect example, actually. I once had a tenant that wanted to take care of their own lawn maintenance, okay? There was an alley behind them, okay? So obviously with the amount of properties that I have, I didn't frequent the property enough. And, even if I were to drive, I probably didn't even go there for 3 years, to be honest with you. What ended up happening was he was throwing his garbage in the back alley, and I got hit with an $834 bill from the city to clean it up. Guess what happened to my cash flow that year?
Zero.
See what I mean?
Pretty much.
If I was new and I was managing and cutting the grass, I would have seen that he was fucking dumping garbage in the back because it wasn't like overnight. Okay. And I wouldn't have had to pay that bill.
Yeah. So at least
this is a scenario.
Whether or not you're going to cut, like at least stop by the property once in a while 100%. Or do a check or check the outside, whatever the case is.
Exactly. You can even, when you're there cutting the grass or whatever, that's a good chance to build rapport. Is anything wrong with the property? What are your thoughts? Build rapport with the neighbors. Okay. You want the neighbors on your side. Okay. Especially if you're new, the neighbors will tell you a story that the tenant's not. Okay. Like I was told by that property that there was drug activity going on. I didn't know. I wouldn't have known that. How would I have known that? You know what I'm saying? So you want to build rapport with the neighbors. If they see you cutting the grass all the time, like this and that, you're frequenting the property. They're going to come out, especially if they care about the neighborhood. If there's a problem, they're definitely going to fucking come out and tell you. All right. Go knock on their door when you're there. Ask them like, hey, have you seen anything odd in the area about my property? This and that. Get feedback from the neighborhood. That's what I think a lot of people don't do. And I have done that.
Yeah, you can be too passive in this 100%. Where you just forget about it, which, to a certain extent, that's what you want, but you got to at least put some effort. You got to stop by once in a while.
Yeah.
You can even submit a notice and say 24 hours notice, hey, I'm going to stop by. I got to change the filter or something. Like just get in there once in a while. Yeah. And maybe more often if it's a lower end property or
and if you're new if you're new, it's going to be that much more important to make sure that property operates at its optimal NOI
for sure,
so that you're not getting burned.
How about a couple other things too? Because you talked about this once. When you get into the bigger stuff, particularly, is maintaining good books and keeping them clean.
Oh man!
Because when you go to sell that property, people are buying the income and they're buying the NOI basically. Yeah. So for larger stuff, you've seen some weird stuff on the books, right? Like people were putting their own personal vehicle on the books, and that hurts what you can show.
Yeah, for sure. So when I bought that building in Michigan. And I've had multiple buildings where I was underwriting them and figuring out, what I wanted to buy the property for. I would always see weird line items on the books there. And, the Canton property had like, what were they doing? They were putting their lease payment for a car under employee wages on the books. So then what happens? They have to come back to me and be like, okay, well, this is where the lease payment is. You got to break this out. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, well, is that true? Is it not true? Like, as soon as you don't want a scenario where someone is trying to buy your property when you want to sell it, and they're looking at this and saying like, why the fuck is this expense so high? And then you got to go back and explain it. You know what that does to the buyer? Yeah. Like, it raises flags. Red flags. And then I've had all kinds of scenarios where it was like, I'm siphoning off income from the property. So the employee wages are way too high. You got to take that into account. And I'm like, why can't you just run your shit straight? Yeah. Like, so I'm talking about like, a lot of people like will run gas like in their business or their income statements and stuff like that. Like, don't even do that shit. Like, literally.
Oh, like the personal vehicle gas.
Man, they get like, if you're going to actually have something, if you're actually going to have a scenario where you actually have to produce real accounting for a property, do not put anything other than what's related to that fucking property on that income statement and balance sheet.
Yeah, keep them clean.
Not one fucking thing.
And another thing too, when you have a properly managed building, especially when you get into the bigger stuff, when you manage it properly and keep the expenses down, that creates a higher NOI. It makes your
And what happens when you have a higher NOI?
You get a higher sale price. Exactly. Like, significantly. This can be like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so your fucking 13% that you're saving on your $50 fucking tank of gas is fuck
costing you a lot more.
It's costing you way more than that 50% added on per month to the NOI. Think about that. Think about that for 1 second. Think about if you can add $50 to $100 more per month to your rental property versus you throwing your fucking gas on there. Yeah, think about what that would do.
It's huge.
Think about that. You probably
at a 5 cap.
At a 5 cap. What is that?
I don't know. Tens of thousands at least.
Where's my? It's what?
What'd you say? $50 a month?
Not even. That's $50 a month. $50 a month is probably way too light. So say $100 times 12. Divided by 5%, it's $24,000 more per month if you take stupid ass expenses.
$24,000 of value on the property.
$24,000 of value more per month at a 5 cap if you stop fucking around on your income statement.
HST on your
exactly. It ain't worth it.
It doesn't make sense.
Now this is smaller. Like, this doesn't necessarily apply to smaller properties.
Yeah, like duplex, triplex.
Yeah, like you're probably not going to have like an income statement, balance
you won't
sheet.
Even have one.
But if you have a portfolio, get rid of that shit. Yeah. It ain't helping you at all. Because when someone serious comes up and they want to buy a fucking portfolio off of you for millions of dollars, and they look at your income statement and you got to feed them some bullshit because you wanted to throw your gas and your carpet and all this other shit on there, it ain't worth it. Yeah. Do it some other way. You can do some different shit where you're playing around with your payables and receivables. From the company, just get it off the fucking books for your real estate.
Let's put it this way: as an agent and as a buyer, most of the opportunities that we see in the market are because of mismanagement.
100%.
Whether it's mismanaged books or the mismanaged property or bad tenants or below market rents, like whatever, it's always mismanaged. Like if this property was operating at full value and then they sold it, in a small case, 50 to 100 grand more. In the big cases, it could be in the millions.
I'm going to show you a scenario right now. I'm gonna go through a scenario right now of something that we are actually in the midst of doing a deal for. I should actually have the purchase agreement signed, maybe even today, to be honest with you. It's going to be a scenario where, give me a second here. Exactly like what we're talking about, Scott. It's mismanaged. Mismanaged.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many properties are mismanaged. It's really
it's way more often. Yeah. It happens way more often than not.
Yeah. Another part of mismanagement, just while you're going, is not understanding the market, not understanding market rents. Like a lot of landlords don't know what's actually happening right now in Windsor in particular.
Absolutely.
And they're renting way below what they could get. And it, you're getting less cash flow, and when you go to sell the property, you're going to sell it for less as well.
So this property here is being mismanaged currently. So we are looking at it's outrageous. Okay, so because it's being mismanaged, there's some deferred maintenance on it. It's not even that old. One of the properties is old. The other ones aren't that old. We are looking at a 8.5% purchase cap right now. We're talking about, this is Coral Springs, fucking Florida. Okay, this is like one of the it's in the Fort Lauderdale market. It's a submarket of Fort Lauderdale and one of the fastest growing markets.
Like legitimately, people are moving to Florida. There's lines up of U-Hauls heading to Florida right now.
So this property, 8.5 cap, okay? 15.5% cash on cash return.
Insane.
Okay?
Insane.
5-year average. A total ROI at year 5, 462%. An annualized ROI... annualized ROI on an average basis. Annualized ROI over the course of 5 years, or at year 5, 92%. And an average IRR, that's what I was getting, I couldn't see it. Average IRR, average from 5 years, 40.5%.
Insane.
Because these guys are from Boston that are selling this property and completely mismanaging this property.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times,
how crazy is that fucking deal?
If those numbers were in like some slum market or some crappy town or something like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, whatever, you're adjusting for risk. But like this is a good building in a good location.
100%. So let's take the NOI from that. Okay. So the NOI from this property is currently like not even adjusting for anything, like no rehab work, none of that bullshit. Okay. That property is being purchased for $5.15 million. Okay. And the income coming in on that property right now, literally right now at a 5 cap, if it was professionally and well done in terms of management, it would be worth $8.726 million.
So they're costing themselves
$3.5 million. They're leaving literally $3.5 million on the table.
Insane.
Because they're not managing the property right. So that is a prime example of what happens when you don't manage a fucking property correctly.
And as you get into these bigger properties, those numbers blow up, but it starts with the duplex. It starts with the triplex. But once you get into these things, it's the millions.
And that's why when you start getting into these things and you come from a perspective of growing a portfolio and doing it yourself from the onset, you understand how important it is to manage property the right way, because when you start getting into numbers like this, that's where the fucking big dollars are, because we're going to sell this fucking property in 5 years for fucking, I don't know, over 10 million, well over 10 million. We're going to 2.5 times the value of this property.
You're taking advantage of mismanagement. A lot of times too, what we see is like, you have a group of people involved and they just don't get along. They don't see eye to eye. That's a big opportunity. That creates mismanagement a lot of times.
It's 3 partners.
Yeah, exactly. Right. One guy wants this. One guy doesn't want to invest any money. Exactly. One guy just wants to dispose of the property.
So the problem here too is that this deal here, they're friends and it's ruining their friendship.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
It's ruining their friendship because one's managing it, one lives in the area, the other 2 don't live in the area, so one's doing more than all that kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? They didn't manage. They probably didn't manage expectations from the get-go. One's probably getting compensated more than the other one. Like who knows what's going on?
This happens a lot.
Yeah. Man. So I don't exactly know obviously what the narrative is on this type of thing, but I do know it's a partnership, and I do know that it's being mismanaged, and I do know from what I'm being told, there's no like really big issues, but they just want to dispose of the property and get something closer to home. Yeah. That's what the goal is.
Property from the buyer's perspective is like the key opportunities.
So Canton was also very mismanaged because there was 3 partners in that property as well, and they did not get along.
Yeah. So and they hadn't raised rents.
Yeah, they hadn't raised rents.
They didn't get along.
Yeah, they didn't get along. Deferred maintenance.
Yeah, they didn't do the little things.
Yeah, the carpet's fucked up out of the elevator. Like, just stupid little shit like that they could never get on the same page to just literally fix the flooring in the fucking elevator, where that's the first thing when you walk into the building.
So simple.
Like fix it. There's tape on. There's duct tape holding the floor together. It's
ridiculous. May have gotten $1 million discount
100%
on that property because of these stupid things. Like it's
100% you do.
So mismanagement is like
the property was purchased at like a 7.5 cap. Canton.
Yeah, and it's a great building.
It's a great building. Yeah, 17 years old. It's crazy. Yeah. So like those properties should be selling in the current markets at a 5 cap because the market's so hot, maybe even less. Yeah. But they won't because it's fucked up. Yeah. Mismanaged. There's deferred maintenance, and deferred maintenance come from mismanaging.
Yeah, so you come in, you clean up the management, manage it properly, and then it's worth significantly amount.
So proper management is outrageously valuable.
Yeah, I hope this hits home. Like I got to wrap up, but I hope this hits home for people. Like buying the properties, it's half the battle. It's a big portion, right? You got to buy the right stuff at the right price. But the next half, don't forget about it.
I would even
manage properly.
I would even venture. I would even get aggressive as much as saying that like properly managing the property is like 90%.
I thought about saying that too, but I'm like, is that really much? Because it's actually so huge.
It's pretty easy that when you have the money and you find the property, it's pretty fucking easy to get that property.
Yeah, and
it's not easy. It's not easy to manage.
Managing is actually harder. You're right.
It actually is the harder part. It's way harder.
It's not that hard, right? Like you should be able to manage it if you with a little bit of experience and hard work, but like it's relatively harder and more work than buying it.
Relatively speaking, it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the hardest part of owning real estate is properly managing.
Because you got to you buy the property once, but you got to keep managing.
Exactly.
Yeah, now, if you're getting a property manager, I want to finish off with this. Then you got to manage the property manager and make sure that 100%. They're doing a good job. You know how many times I've had like, my property manager's had this place vacant for like 2 months straight, and the vacancy rate's 3%.
Yeah,
then that's your fault. Yeah, because you got to freaking fire them then. Yeah, or get on their ass and say you got 1 more week or you're done, and then move on.
Coachwood Capital, Coachwood Capital Management Services.
Yeah,
by the way,
A+, these guys. Yeah. So, but yeah, I got to wrap up. Awesome talk. Hopefully, you guys took some
very important property management. The most important,
maybe 90% according to
maybe fucking 99 fucking percent of 100% of the battle.
Nothing else matters.
Well, think about it. Like, let me just. We'll wrap up with this.
All right.
Think about this for a second. If you actually don't properly manage your property, what happens to the value of your property and your income? It's nothing. There's nothing there anymore. So if you're into real estate to make money and you don't have it properly managed, you won't make money. Yeah. So
stop sleeping on property management.
It's one of the most important things. It's by far the hardest thing, and you have to be willing to be in it for the long term
and get good at it.
Yeah, and you have to exactly. Yeah, you have to. It's not something where like, oh hey, like I found a property, I got the financing, I've got the down payment, I can just buy it and it's done. No, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to get good at it. You have to get good at it, and you have to understand actually how to perform.
And eventually you pass it on, right? Like you're going to get big enough where you don't need to do it anymore. But
you have to have thick skin.
Until that day comes.
You need some thick skin too. Like
and even when you pass it on, you still have to manage the people managing it. You still have to run the business.
Of course, for sure.
For sure.
It's you're managing your managers.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Trigger.